You're about ready to push the buy button for timing systems for your drone racing. But what software should you use? Stay tuned.
Go DroneX.
Hi, Greg Novosad, aka Diviner Greg from Go Drone X. Last year we went to bring a timing system into our organization and we purchased iLabs. When we purchased that, it came with an evaluation disc for lots of different software to use. So I was tasked with going through each piece of software and try to figure out what would fit our requirements. Well, I don't want to get into all the requirements, but at the end of the day, we decided on Flipside for our software product, which we're going to go through, and I'm going to show you how we set it up for our organization. Let's go check it out. Let's jump into the software. Flipside general configuration, you could load your own images. Most of this is straightforward. iLab is the hardware system we use. The other thing is slot colors. Slot colors makes this easier to read in the sun. The default is a little flaky. There will be pinks and stuff changing, and it's hard to read in the sun. I found that this green assigned to every single slot was the best. Also, default row spacing of 18 spaces out your race results during the race, making it easier to read. Okay, there's some other things you can do. Manage themes. You can go into your sounds and override those as well. I didn't. They worked really good the way they were. Let's go take a look at race configuration. Race configuration, you can override your name. This is the default setting I use. R for an actual race. One means round one, the other one means the heat. So R11 is a competition round, round one, heat one. You can save your profiles, which I do. This has race types. The four that I use in the field, or the three I use in the field are timed, staggered time, free play. Timed is just you set a time and the race ends at the time. You finish your last lap that you're completed. Lap is 5 laps, 6 laps to finish a race. And then staggered time means everybody gets their own clock. So this is useful in qualifying. You say on your marker set go. The timer triggers when each individual crosses their start finish line. So everybody has their own line, or their own clock, I'm sorry. That keeps people from crashing on the start. Free play is if you're just out screwing around and people want to hear their lap times. I'll turn it on to free play. So let's look at timed. When I click time, notice number of laps is grayed out. Time limit. What's nice about this software is it lets you key in decimals for times, which a lot of the other players don't. For example, Alleycat, RC Scoring Pro, do not let you key in half seconds or half minutes, which is not good. Minimum lap time, keep this number as low as possible. 3 is a good number. This is so you won't double read a time, because the clock speed on this is really, really fast, meaning your IR flasher on your transponder is pumping out many signals per second. Round type. What this field is used for is a literal that will get appended onto your race name. So the only ones I really use are practice and main. Other than that, I don't believe it does any function in your actual running of your race. Starting countdown, make it at least 8, and I'll show you why later on. Ending countdown, I keep mine at 20. Our usual lap times are around 30 seconds, so 2/3 of the way I want these guys knowing how much race time they have left, so they'll push it and try to squeak in that extra lap using a most laps method. Timeout. Timeout is how much time is allowed to do a lap. The system does not know if somebody crashes, so if it says race is ended, it won't shut down the actual race event until the last pilot crossing is done at least 30 seconds. Okay, so set this to what you consider a reasonable lap time is for a slow pilot. Ending countdown, I leave all this the way it is, with the exception of lap time to 1 decimal. A couple things to consider. When you start your countdown, it'll be 19, 18, 17, 16. While that's going on, it won't read lap times. So they conflict with each other. So you're going to have to play around with what's your best setting. Okay, let's go look at Edit Racers. Edit Racers, the big problem with this screen is a lot of times you'll forget to hit save. You might create a new racer when you might forget to hit save. So that's happened to me a couple times in the field. Also, this screen's pretty small in the field. So just a heads up, there's no large fonts here. Mostly what you'll do is when you go to create a new racer is you won't enter their UID, you'll scan their UID. So when you push this button, there's a little timer here and you can scan it. I keep a sensor right next to my laptop, so I can scan people's UID numbers in right then and there. So when they come to check in, if they're not already in my driver database, I basically scan them, and then after I save it, I'll read it back. I'll read the last 4 digits back to them. So that confirms it, even though if it scans it incorrectly, it will work. I'll also say if they've got a goofy name or something, I'll key in their phonetic name and then I'll test it out on speak so they can hear it and make sure it sounds cool. Okay, make sure to hit save. That's another one that we always forget. Okay, when you're sitting at home, you don't have to set up your transponder system, your sensors, and plug them in to do testing of the software. This I learned too late in the process. Key in UID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and you can use your keyboard to do software testing. So let's run some races. To confirm, there's 2 ways to start a race. One is from this screen, which is what I recommend, because after every race, you might want to go in here and change the descriptor. So we're going to go ahead and run a race. It's only set to half a second now, or 30 seconds as a race. So I'm going to make a couple of quick adjustments so the video doesn't take too long. I'm going to make my starting countdown 8 and my ending countdown 10 seconds. Let's make it 5 seconds. And I'm going to put a timeout of 10 seconds. Okay, let's go ahead and start the race. Now, listen closely.
Go Drone X Racers, get ready to light it up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So, there you can see I'm running 30 seconds. They go through the starting line. I'm hitting keyboards 1, 2, 3, 4. Notice the green and notice the spacing. This is easy to read in the sun. Okay, Dan or Eric comes through.
13.0, 14.8, 16.6, 8. Dan takes the lead. Fastest lap by Dan 4.712 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time limit reached. Complete your final lap.
So now it's going through that how long should a lap take? We had it set to 10 seconds. It doesn't know everything.
Another smoking Go Drone X race is complete. In first place Dan with 3 laps, in second place Eric with 3 laps, in third place Tim with 2 laps, in fourth place Joe with 2 laps.
Okay, so let's review some of the things that just happened there. When we started the countdown, during the race to do the countdown to the finish of the race, as racers were coming across, it did not read their lap times. That was the first thing. Second thing, having lap times played during a race is critical. I hear all these guys using all these timing systems, but I'm just shocked to find out that, guys using like AlleyCat, RC Scoring Pro, and Lifetime, they're not using lap time. So how is a racer supposed to plan a strategy? If I've got goggles over my eyes and I'm trying to book, I need 24 seconds per lap in order to get my extra lap in, running a timed race. The race is determined by who has the most amount of laps, and we accumulate these laps over every round. Think of it this way. If you're running 5 rounds, consider that one big race with 4 pit stops. That's the way I explain it to people. So it's very similar to like the Indy 500. We accumulate all those laps, and at the end of the day, if there's a tie, whoever has the best accumulated time for those laps wins the day, and that's how we break ties. I need to hear those times because that's how I know if I'm on pace to get my extra lap. So in a timed 2-minute race, I'm shooting for around 24 seconds or so, depending on a little give and take here, to get my extra lap in. And that's exciting. People live for that. Also, I want to hear other racers' times throughout the day. So this is a feature that most people are not using if they're not using Flipside, and that needs to change. Also, you heard an announcement before the race went, and it said, Go Drone X Racers, get ready to light it up. And at the end of the race, you heard another smoking Go Drone race is complete. That's another thing that I'm a little shocked whenever I hear watch videos of people running races. They're not taking advantage of all the cool features to make their races as exciting as possible. Let me show you how that's done. In your FS race subdirectory, there's a file called XML, language.xml. Open that up, and this is what's nice about this. It's multi-language support. You can go ahead and type in your hashtags, your taggings of prepare to race, and type in anything you want. You don't need to record anything and bring out your audio editor. I've got Go Drone X Racers, get ready to light it up, and another smoking Go Drone X Race is complete. So it's personalized to my events, and I really like that. Let's go take a look at the race results. Here you can see that it did tag the text correctly and then a date and time stamped it. So you can see this is the data I entered. This was the race type and then a date and time stamped it. It's important on this screen. Right now it says time per lap. That's exactly what you want. That is not the default. The default does laps versus times. You want time per lap. Now at this point you want to go through and ask your spotters and pilots how many laps they think they had, and you want to confirm it to your screen. If there's a discrepancy in there, you've got to make a note to come back. Let's say somebody thinks Dan's spotter and Dan thinks they did 4 laps per this event, not 3 for this round. I'm sorry. Here's how we do that. We can click on Dan, and here's Dan's times. He had 14 seconds, 4 seconds, and 7 seconds. So I can kind of tell if the transponder perhaps missed a lap, because you're going to see that your times are going to be about double of what a typical lap time is. How do I fix that? I click on it and I click split a lap. Boom. It basically kicked up Dan's times to 4 laps and then split that time in half. So that's really, really, really good. Other things we can do is we can run a race report, which is what I don't do that during the race because there's no need. I then usually take a screen print of this and then I post it on our Facebook group so everybody in the world can see everybody's race times for each run. It's just good. It's good to see that type of stuff and do race analysis. Let's take a look at the actual field setup of how I do this. There's my laptop. Remember to close your laptop when you're not using it to save your battery. I don't bring a generator out anymore. Too much of a hassle, and there's no need. Here's my black Coroplast reflector. So I have a black backdrop, and I've created some holes here to put my hands in. Here's my manual form for control results. Over here, there's a mixer. Here's the mixer that I bought. Nice little field mixer, and I feed it with a LiPo battery, and it feeds quite a few things. So it is 12 volts. I do have 4 levels of input. Input level 1 is a wireless mic. Input level 2 is a hard-coded or a hardwired mic in case I have a failure with my wireless mic. Level 3 is my cell phone because that's where I get my music from. And then level 4 is my laptop. My laptop is feeding me 2 types of sounds. It's feeding me flip side race results, and it's feeding me a sound effects piece of software so I could do funny little things to keep the race livened up a little bit. What I found is if you don't have music at a race, it's like a morgue. There's no energy. There's no festival atmosphere. I also found that I needed the mixer right next to my PC, so if I'm not talking, I crank up the music level. And if I am talking, I dial down the music level. So I have complete control and flexibility. I learned that if I used, I tried to use, here's my portable speaker system that's fed off a car battery, so that can last me forever. If I tried to use some of the audio controls and mixers on here, I had to be standing right next to this the whole time, and that's not what I do. So I've got complete flexibility with the mixer, with all of the setup. When I did my first race, when we did our first race, major race, where we tried to set this up using existing methods and stuff, it took us 5 hours. And I said, this is not right. This should not take 5 hours to set up race control. Now, with one person to help me set up basically 2 tents, I can have all of my registration, all of this set up, ready to go with all these chairs in less than 30 minutes. And that's a big deal because when you're pretty much doing it by yourself, you need to be able to set up, load, unload, and get back in the car quick. So this is pretty common. I've got one bag that controls a lot of this equipment. I've got my chairs. I've got my little frequency tags and slots on the back, and we can rock and roll really, really fast. Somebody sets up the course, somebody sets up the race control, and we're getting people all checked in really, really quick. So try out some of those features in Flipside, specifically in the sun. Don't forget about putting some sort of backdrop against your video screen so you could have less reflections and make it a lot easier in the real world. A couple of things. When it comes to buying a timing system, this is what I've seen in the real world. Guys go out, they're forming a race league, they get all excited, they buy a timing system, but since they haven't mastered their ability to run races on their own efficiently, it falls by the wayside. It just adds more complexity. So I actually tell people, don't buy a timing system until you can get 8 races an hour through. Meaning get your throughput going, get all your other procedures going before you buy a timing system. A timing system is nice. It is not a requirement. It's not a must-have. It's just a nice thing to have, but it adds a lot more complexity for your racers and for an organizer. So avoid it if you can, and only do it when you're ready. Also, these are the timing systems that I evaluated, but there's always open source systems coming out all the time. And keep in mind, Flipside is considered an open source system. So look at those other software solutions as well. And then finally, of course, go light it up.
Go Drone X!
See race results at godronex.com and join the conversation on Facebook at GoDroneX and FPV3 Racers.